Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Alfonso Peluso and I'm a Studio Associate Professor in the College of Architecture at IIT, the home of the legendary Mies van der Rohe, and I'm adjunct faculty at Columbia College Chicago in the Interior Architecture program. Shout out to all my students. I hope you're doing well. A new school year is underway. We're a few weeks into it and things are going really well. It's a not so sunny day in Chicago. It's been raining a little bit, but that's okay. The weather's still pretty nice for uh, getting into fall. It's early September as I make this video. So today we're going to look at a wonderful plugin for Grasshopper called Paneling Tools. And this is actually part 2 of a series that looks at paneling tools. So if you haven't watched part 1 of paneling tools, you're going to want to go back and watch that video. Today we're going to look specifically at how to use paneling tools and how to use its attractors. So you see we're going to look at point attraction, curve attraction, and mean attraction. So what is attraction actually? So right now I have it set up for point attraction, and I have these 2 points that I have spheres tied to those 2 points, and if I move those spheres around, the tops of these cones are going to attract themselves to the sphere. Now, what it also has is it has a magnitude, so it has a weight of how much attraction. So now what you see is as I move this number slider slowly, the grid, there's an underlying grid, so today's all about grids too, and it's attracting itself to the outside, to the corners where those spheres are. So you're seeing more of the geometry located out near where those spheres are. So if I move this sphere over, you're going to see that it's going to attract itself to that sphere. So hopefully that's a good example of something that you can do with attractors. Alright, before we jump into the tutorial, if you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel, please go ahead, search me up, subscribe to it, click on the red subscribe, or at the end of this video my head will pop up and you can click on that to subscribe, and click on the little bell where you can get all the notifications of when my videos are coming out. There's something here for everybody. I've been publishing a lot of videos recently. Also, connect with me on Instagram. I've been actually having a lot more fun connecting with you guys, and I think it's great when you tag me on some of your Grasshopper work, and then I can repost that on my Instagram or put it on my story. So that's a lot of fun. Went back to school this week in person with some students, so that's been a lot of fun. I've been posting some of the daily work that we've been doing. So connect with me at Alfonso_Peluso and tag me in some of your posts so we can interact. Alright, so this plugin, this wonderful plugin called Paneling Tools that's made by Raja Issa, and she actually works for McNeil, and McNeil is who makes Grasshopper and Rhino. So it's a fairly well integrated, stable plugin for Rhino and Grasshopper. So I'm just on the Food for Rhino website, and I actually just did a search, paneling tools food for Rhino, and it first hit is this website that brings you to where you can find the plugin and you can download that. Alright, so let's jump into this. So I'm going to delete a few things that I have set up here. Rita, my dog, is probably seeing a squirrel or a bunny or something like that she's barking at. So that's a lot of fun too. Sorry about that. Alright, so let me get this definition back to where part 1 leaves off. So that is with, and it won't be exactly, but it will be similar to where part 1 left off. So let me get rid of those. And let me plug, I think there was some grid utilities here. I think there was a rotate 45. I'm not too concerned about that. So let's just get this set up. so that it's without the attractors. Okay, so that's without the attractors. That's what it looked like. And just to refresh our memory on how this is set up, there are two surfaces. There's a surface that is at the very bottom. Okay, it's a flat surface. And there is another surface that is at the very top. So we can see these two surfaces at the bottom and at the top, and the geometry is conform. This actually looks really nice. The geometry is conforming itself to the top surface and the bottom surface. So that's how we started out, and then we're applying a grid or grids to each one of those surfaces. Okay, and it's hosting the bottom and top of this geometry that we've made. Okay, so these grids that you see, let's start with just the bottom grid. Okay, and I'm going to actually hide. I'm going to hide this preview. Oh, I gotta disconnect it. Hiding it doesn't work. Okay, so let's go back here. Alright, so here's our grid. So we're going to manipulate our grid. Let me change this to, I think wireframe will be the best for what we're trying to do. There we go. Nice. Okay, so we have just a regular grid that's using U and V numbers. There's 8 here that is dividing that grid. If I go to 10, it'll line up with my grid. So we see that. Now this is the grid that we're going to manipulate using attractors. So you saw a point attractor definition. So let's go ahead and make that. So in Rhino is where we're going to make some points. So I just want to make sure I'm on the right layer here. Alright, so I'm going to put this on my layer 5 here, and I'm going to make 2 points. So I'm going to make those just by typing in the point command and placing a point. And I'm going to change the color of this layer, or else I'll never see these things. Okay, so I only need 2 of them. There were 2 there that were previously set up. Okay, so there's our 2 points. Alright, so we're going to bring those 2 points into Grasshopper, and we're just going to do that through a points container, or a point container. So I'm going to select that point container. I'm going to right click on it and choose set 1 point. And I'll do that for, I'll make 2 of them. Okay, and I just want to double check. When I click on one, it gives me a little X. I click on the other, it gives me a little X. And just to highlight these even more, I'm going to add a sphere. So then I can really see where they're at. Okay, so there's our 2 spheres. Alright, so those are our points. Now, I'm going to put the attractors actually down below, give them their own part of the definition. Draw my not so straight line. Can't draw a straight line. I'd love to be able to, if someone knows if there's a shift or an alt or some way to draw it, that'd be great. Just giving this a color. Alright, now when I click on my green check mark, whenever I'm making a video, it goes to my window behind it. I don't know why, but just a little glitch there. Alright, I'm going to add a scribble. Okay, so this is going to be my point. So we're going to look at 3 attractors today. This is going to be my point attraction. Okay. Now, what I'm manipulating is I'm manipulating the grid from above. I'm going to start with that grid. So I'm going to put that into a container. I don't know what the best container to put that in is, I'm just going to put it into a point container, since it really is just a bunch of points, and move that down here. Okay, so let's work with this for a little bit. Alright. So in paneling tools, under grid attractors, I'm going to choose point attraction. Okay, alright, and there's going to be one for my bottom grid and there's going to be one for my top grid. So we'll get to that in a second. Just give myself some space here. Alright, so this is the grid that I'm manipulating. I've highlighted this. It shows this very regular grid and the Rhino window. I'm going to plug this into grid. Then it wants the attractors that it's going to be attracted to. So those are going to be my two spheres. Let me just start with one, or my 2 points, but let me just start with 1 point. And then some magnitude, and I'm going to make a decimal slider with 2.555. And I'll plug that into the magnitude. Okay, so what we're seeing is those points are pulling themselves, or being attracted to that point. And if I was to move that point around, they would continue to attract themselves to that point. Okay. So we can get a really good sense of what's happening with the attractors. I wouldn't have it all the way up at 7. Okay, so let me add the other point into that using shift. Okay, so now you see what I was demoing at the beginning, where they're attracted to the 2 points. This point doesn't seem to be the one that's doing anything. You just verify. There's something went red here. Alright, what I'm going to do is I'm going to plug this directly in. I'm just worried about that. Yeah, I'm going to plug that directly in. Oh, still went. That capsule went bad. I've actually never had that happen where this capsule goes bad. Oh, I can see why though. Let me undo what I'm doing here. Let me undo. I could see why. I figured this out. Some of you at home are like, it's that sphere. You plug that sphere directly in. You don't want to do that. Yeah, I don't want to plug that sphere directly in. Oh, use my shift key here. Alright, so now this should be working as I move it. Alright, so let's keep going with this. Okay, so that's the base grid. That's the base grid. Remember, we have 2 surfaces here. We have these 2 surfaces. So that's our base grid. Now we need to work with our grid that's on that top surface. So that's coming from here. So let's make another point container. Plug that in. Bring that down. Okay. So this also needs its own point attractor. Okay, it can use the same points and the same magnitude, but it needs its own capsule. So we're going to get that grid attractors, point attraction, and we're going to plug that in. So we'll plug the grid in. We'll plug the 2 points in that we already have, and we'll plug the magnitude in. So you can see that that grid is also being manipulated. Okay, it's a lot of weight there. There we go. Can start to see that. Okay, so then now we need a morph 2D. So that's from our panel 3D. We can choose morph 3D. It is looking for the two grids. It's looking for the pattern object. Okay, so the two grids and then the pattern object. We haven't looked at what the pattern object is. We made it during the last video, but it looks like that. It's a rectangle and then a smaller scaled version of that rectangle that's lifted up. Okay, so this is going to be, I'm going to put this into a geometry capsule. And I'm going to call this one unit to tessellate. Now what I haven't turned on is I haven't turned on my bifocals. Place that up here somewhere. Okay. So now we can kind of see these things better with the labels. Sorry about that. Got used to working without them. Alright, so it wasn't until I renamed this one geometry. Oh, I named it unit to tessellate, but I'm not seeing that. Okay. Let's bring this down. Let's add a scribble for that. Okay, so that's going to go into the pattern objects. Okay, and let's put our famous Pepto-Bismol pink here. Alright, so this is what I was demonstrating at the beginning of the tutorial there. I love this. Love this attractors because you're making, now the grid, you could make the grid look really bad. It could be, so, you don't want to make it look bad. You still want to have it a very nice look to it. But what you're trying to do is make a non-organic grid pattern or a non-repetitive. That's really, and this is for, this goes out to my IIT architecture students who are taking my advanced modeling class, and one of the goals is effects. We're trying to create effect where we take this grid and we manipulate the grid so it's less regular, it's less repetitive, it's something more unique, something less expected, more exciting. So that's what we're trying to do with these attractors. Okay, so that was our point attraction. So we're going to look at two more. We're going to look at curve attraction and mean attraction. Alright, so I'm going to take this stuff here, copy paste it down. Alright, let's look at curve attraction. Okay, so now instead of 2 points, I'm going to make 2 curves. So I'm going to hide everything above here. And that's all hidden already. I'm going to disconnect my geometry. Okay. Alright, so I'm going to bring 2 curves in from Rhino. So I'm going to use my curve containers. Haven't drawn those curves yet. Just getting these containers out. Okay, so I'm going to draw those curves in Rhino. I'm just going to use an interp curve command. Okay, there's two curves, and the grid is going to organize itself around those two curves. So we're going to see that in a little bit here. So let me bring these two curves into Grasshopper. Okay, and let's do like we did before. We'll start with a very simple base grid that it's just so much easier to read and understand. So what we did is we went up here to that base grid, to that grid, and we used a point container, and we plugged that into the point container. Okay, so this is that's the grid that we're going to manipulate. Okay, so we're going to do that from paneling tools with the grid attractor, and this time it's going to be curve attraction. So again, for those my architecture students in my advanced modeling class, I want to try some of these other ones out that I'm not covering in the class and see what those do for you. Okay, curve attraction. Okay, so the grid that I'm manipulating is going to be plugged in. The two curve attractors. And then I need a magnitude, so I'm going to use 2.555 to start with. Okay, so you see that's pretty high magnitude. So the grid is attracting itself or organizing itself toward the curve. Let me move this curve in a little bit. Okay. So I think you get a good sense of what's happening there. Now you could set this up to where you could have these separately. I don't have to put both curves into one curve attraction. I don't have to use one magnitude for both curves, but that's how we have it set up at the moment. Okay. Alright, so that's our base grid. That's the base grid. Now we need to do this for the top grid as well. So let me show you again what we need here. Okay, so we need to do it for that top surface also. Alright, so we just go up top to where we have those and make a point container. Plug that in. Move that down. Okay, it needs its own curve attraction. So from grid attractors, I'm going to choose curve attraction. Okay, it's going to use this grid. The curves are going to be the same as above. And so is the magnitude. Okay, it's going to need a morph 2D, or morph 3D rather. So we'll choose morph 3D. And again, my advanced modeling students, or anyone of you at home, if you want to experiment with these other ways to panel, yeah, please go ahead and do that. So morph 3D, let me know. Let me know in the comments how it works out as well. Okay, let's take this one. So the pattern objects, that's this unit to tessellate. so we're getting some non-uniform tessellation, and now it is tied to those curves, so I can continue to move those curves, or I can manipulate their control points, and it's all very parametric. You see how it's updating in the geometry, so that's very cool. Alright, so that's curve attraction. On to our last one, which is going to be mean. Not mean like I'm being mean to you, but mean curvature. So if you were to Google search that, we can Google search it in a second. So let's look at that. So mean attraction. Let's get some images. So here's some examples, and this is probably a good one here, where we could say that we have some positive curvature and some negative curvature and curvature of 0 when it's flat. And then you can see some diagrams or some results of mean curvature, where we see red is the positive curvature and green is flat and blue is the negative curvature. See some of that same diagram here, and we can also see that in Rhino. So in Rhino, I'm just going to go ahead and unplug this. So in Rhino, I'm going to show you this curve, or rather this surface. Okay. I don't like that surface is green. Okay, because that's one of the colors of mean curvature. Alright, so now I'm going to use a command called curvature analysis. Okay. And that's giving me an analysis of that surface. So again, the red is the positive curvature, and the blue is the negative, and the green is where it's getting near flat. Okay. And yellow and cyan, so you can see the curvature color gradient there, so I'll just leave that out. So what happens in the attraction is actually the points, they run from the positive. The points run to the flat areas. They try to make their way to the flat area. I would like to see the opposite of that. So if anyone experiments and finds the opposites, where they run to the positive area of the curvature analysis, that would be great. Let me know how you're doing that in the comments down below. Alright, so we'll do the same steps where we use some point containers. We don't need a curve or a point, so it's a little bit quicker to make this. So let's just, we can just copy and paste these from above. Drop these down. Okay, so now under grid attractors, we're going to use mean curvature. Okay, we need one for here. And okay, so let's start with this first one. Okay, so the surface that we're using for its mean curvature, we're using from above. We're using this one. Let's see if that's the right one. Yep, that's the right one. So I'm going to copy and paste that. Okay, so that's going to be my surface. And then my magnitude will be start out with my 2.555. Okay. So let's see how this grid is organizing itself. So as the numbers go up really high, it starts to get away. And there's some in the red here, but the majority of these points have made their way. They've fled from the red area. So you can kind of see that happening there. Alright, so now I need to just copy paste this mean curvature. Plug in the grid. We'll do a morph 3D. Use our unit to tessellate. Plug that into the pattern object. Alright, let's plug this into the geometry. And I think there's one other step we're going to have to do here. Okay, let's hide this now in Rhino. Okay, so you see how this is like really, it's really awesome, to be honest, but it's on the one surface, and that just goes back, it goes back here where I have this surface controlling this grid. I need that flat surface controlling the other grid, so I need this one here. Alright, and then the order that these are plugged in, it for whatever reason wants me to flip these. Okay. Alright, so this is one, it's a little more funky, it's a little more, I guess, ugly, I would say. So, you know, finding the right parameters there might be a little bit more tricky. Alright. Let's go back to, just to end it, go back to the point attraction. Make this rendered. Alright, so if you've liked this video, go ahead and click on the like below. Make sure that you subscribe to my channel. If you like the video, let me know why you like it. Leave me some comments. I'd love to hear from you. My head's going to pop up. Go ahead and click on my head to subscribe. I'll put a link to the original paneling tools in the upper right here. And I'll put a link to my new Back to Basics Rhino playlist. Alright, I'll see you on the next one.